and the Denver Nuggets with an emphatic win. Minnesota takes the first two, and this game goes back to the Twin Cities, and everybody's thinking we're looking at a blowout, right? No, not so much. Jokic down low. Jokic and his team putting on a show. You see, when they're in the best-of-7 series trailing 2-0, it's not great. Jamal Murray, present. Nuggets up 3. Under 2 to go in the first. Nuggets up 2. Murray working on the cat. Nasty bucket there. You know he's battling a calf, but he looks like he's got everything working very well in that first quarter after he had 8 in all of game 2. It's now an 11-point lead. Murray, all 3 of these. Nuggets now up 14. Nikola Jokic, good find. That's Christian Brown down low. Nuggets up 15. Jokic, Michael Porter Jr. down the lane with a layup. 15-point lead. Again, it's Murray. That's his spot. That's Cash on the baseline. Again, Murray, all alone. You know what it is. 18 in the first half. Nuggets with a 15-point lead heading into the locker room. Turnover. Here comes Denver on the run. Murray probing, and that's the dangerous Michael Porter Jr. from deep. It's a 22-point lead. Very little for this Minnesota crowd to cheer about. That's a nasty bucket from Anthony Edwards. Hangs, lets Gordon kind of get past him and is able to get it in, but the problem is they're still down by 18. Now down 20. Murray, what a pass to Jokic. Take another look at how he's able to get that around Naz Reid, who got the trophy for 6th Man of the Year. Congrats to him. Aaron Gordon had a significant contribution in this one. Here he's giving it up to Jokic, and that's the 3. Gordon hit a bunch of 3s in that third when you were wondering if Minnesota could get back in it. Jokic with the spin and the float game, no, but the put back off the tip. Where is it?
As Scott Van Pelt would say, sublime.
That's correct. It's blowout mode. Steele on the run. Gordon to give to Murray with the punch. And it's all road teams thus far in this one. Denver by 27. We're normally sitting face to face, but it was such a blast to see you there on the call, and I know how much you enjoyed it. Denver had to eat this for 4 days. We just asked Nikola about it. Michael Malone reminded him, you're the reigning champs, act like it. What was different from your vantage point, Tim?
Yeah, Scott, first of all, Michael Malone came in for the pregame interview, and now, granted, this is 4 days after Game 2, and I was so kind of blown away by how angry he still was as soon as we referenced Game 2 and what happened. It was just pouring out of him, and it let me know what the last 4 days have been like for his team. And he, in particular, he singled out Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. He said, listen, you're a 3-time MVP. You're going to go play like it. You're Jamal Murray, you're an all-star. We need you to play like it. And I can't say enough about the way Jamal Murray in particular responded to what happened in those 2 games in Denver. He came out and right away, I thought the difference in his bounce, his vibe, his energy, his movement, his confidence with the basketball, controlling it, manipulating it. And then what stood out to me most about his game early, he was beating defenders over screens with the ball. And when you look at what happened in those 2 games that they lost in Denver, every defender on him was beating him to the spot as he was trying to come off ball screen. He was coming off dribble handoff. That was not the case early on in the first quarter in this game, and it set the tone, I thought, for their entire team offensively. They just gained so much confidence from the way their all-star looked and the look in his face and the bounce he had from seeing the ball go through early. Dramatic turnaround, as dramatic a turnaround as I've seen in 2 games consecutively in terms of how a team is operating against an elite defense.
Yeah, and I mean, how he feels with that calf injury, I think you could ask him or he could show you, right? And I felt like tonight he showed us, he certainly showed Minnesota. And you're there. This city's ready to go absolutely nuts. They were up 2-0 on the reigning champs. It's a Friday night. It's going to be a party. and it's not. Now, on the one hand, maybe you flush it, but on the other hand, maybe you start taking your flowers and you start planning your parade route a little bit early. Was there anything concerning to you tonight about how Minnesota looked beyond just the final score?
I will say this was more about Denver to me, Scott. It really was. You want to know what a great offense and what a great team is going to do in response to the most adversity that this group has faced in the last 2 years. How are they going to answer the bell? They showed you in a big way. This was more about them. I do think Minnesota came out early in the game and they were attempting to apply the same type of pressure that they did to Denver in the first 2 games. They just weren't having success with it. Instead of leading to turnovers and frustration and stripped balls out of guys' hands, it was leading to open shots on the part of Denver because they were using that pressure against them. That wasn't the case in the first 2 games. And I think what it did basically was kind of get Minnesota back on their heels. They lost a little bit of their swagger because they were getting so much credit for what they did to this team, particularly in the first half of Game 2. I think they expected that to happen again, and it didn't at all. And it didn't have a counterpunch tonight for that. But I actually think when they go look at the film, I think they're going to be more concerned about what their offense looked like than what their defense looked like, because Denver's going to do things offensively. They're too good of a team. You're not shutting their water off every game the way that you did in those 2. Chris Finch even alluded to that before the game. Offensively, they really struggled to find any sort of rhythm tonight. I didn't think the ball movement was great. I did not think they attacked well off the dribble. Now, Denver was better defensively, but I think that's where the main adjustments come in for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think it's going to be their offensive execution and getting their guys unleashed, because very quiet night, and you are right, Scott. This place was dead from about the 8-minute mark of the first quarter. They were waiting to rip the roof off of this building. They just never got that opportunity. No big moments, no big runs, didn't string together stops, nothing. Denver controlled this game start to finish, really.
Let's get a breakdown on the game from, for the first time in this series, the losing side. Here's Chris Finch.
I mean, a little bit. I thought we'd be better. But we talked all season about being a mature team. Mature teams have to handle success. 3 days between games, how do you prepare back home? Lots of distractions, need to lock in. Thought we had a couple good days of practice, but, apparently we weren't able to transfer it to the floor.
And to play from behind far more than you have in the playoffs, too.
Yeah.
Is that another thing that, maturity kind of has to play into, and kind of learning how to do that in high-stress environments?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. This is a team that you don't want to be behind on, particularly by the margin we were at, because they execute so well, and they got a lot of really tough shot makers. So,
Chris, defensively.
Last game, Michael Malone was seething with rage, and it was still there on the shoot-around this morning, as you heard Tim Legler say. Tonight, his team wins big. His thoughts after the victory.
A point of emphasis throughout the playoffs is getting off to better starts, not playing from behind, not playing catch-up. And I thought our starting group came out and set the tone from Jump Street. And so you win the first quarter. Then the message was, all right, now let's win the second quarter. Let's win the third quarter. And so I love the fact that not only did we get off to a great start, but we were able to sustain that. We had a hit-first mentality. We became the aggressor tonight, and it was a good win for us, but we're far from doing anything to celebrate. We're still down 2-1. But I couldn't agree more. I thought a lot of guys stepped up tonight. Michael Porter made shots. Aaron Gordon in that third quarter made a bunch of shots, played great defense. Nicola's game, some of the things that you won't even show up on the stat sheet, his screening tonight, getting guys open. Tonight, that was Denver Nugget basketball. And that's the first time I've seen that in this series for 4 quarters. And the challenge is to do it again at an even higher level come Sunday.
Michael, one guy you didn't mention there was Jamal, and it felt like he got back to himself making some of those tough shots that he makes. Just how good was it to see some of those shots go down for him? And is he the type of guy that to channel those boos into motivation for himself?
Yeah, I think so. But more importantly, to your point, I was asked after last game, where my confidence was regarding Jamal going 3 for 18. And I have all the confidence in the world in Jamal Murray. And he got going early. Again, I thought Nikola freed him up. His teammates freed him up, but he was aggressive, saw the ball go in early. And to get all 5 starters going offensively, we become very tough to guard. And I think he does kind of relish those moments where he is the bad guy. And I love being in an atmosphere like that. To me, like that beginning of the game, you're in hostile territory. And, that's kind of where you separate the man from the boys. And our guys, I think tonight showed, what we're capable of and how dangerous we can be. But again, it's just one game. We're still down in this series, and we have a long way to go.
They were grown men tonight, and they roll after getting absolutely worked in games 1 and 2 at home. The 27-point victory, the largest by a team who dropped the first 2 games at home in the history of the NBA's postseason. That previous mark was held by the 87 Rockets. Rudy T said never underestimate the heart of a what?
Champion.
That's right. All right, let's get back to the game we follow. It wasn't very entertaining because after they blew out the champs in Denver, Minnesota took one on the chin tonight at home. Here's Anthony Edwards after the 27-point loss.
It's on me. I'll take the blame for this loss. I came out with no energy at all. I came out flat, and I can't afford to do that for my team. I let my team and my coaches down, the fans down, so I'll be ready Sunday. I like the fact that they punched tonight. We didn't punch back, and that's the thing about that. That's fun. Like, you love to compete, so it should be very competitive Sunday, and we're going to be here for it.
The Wolves won their first 6 games this postseason, riding the best defense in the NBA. They held teams to under 100 per game. Tonight, completely different story. Nuggets poured in 117 points. They shot 54% from the floor. It was in the high 50s until garbage time, and they were very nearly 50% from beyond the arc.
NBA